You heard me. What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Tech MLB DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013, and I'm joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG, y'all know as Paulie D, who you can find on Twitter at Paulie with 8 D's. Paulie, I'm tilting heavy on the TJ Warren. How you doing?
I'm alright, bro. MLB is where I've been making my bank anyway, so I don't know why I fucking, dedicate all my time to NBA, but I'm hoping, to get NBA over to like MLB, and I'm hoping to keep MLB going. This is I've never had a streak like this. This is what, like our 7th slate now, and I haven't lost yet, which means I'm definitely going. But I've had like hot streaks where I have like 3 big wins in a 2-week span, but I never go like consecutive days. It's been awesome, and I really can't put my finger on like what is different. I think there's sometimes just in the groove of picking shit, and a lot of it's been ugly. Like I won with like a 113 yesterday, like 6th place in the 44. Like 113 shouldn't even been cash usually, you know what I mean? So whatever, But baseball's been glorious. I hope it stays. 18 Cardinals got the 30, and we're hanging on by a thread here, bro.
I know it's scary. It's scary, man. And it's funny how, not funny, but you see how all it takes is just one player of a team to be irresponsible. And I mean, we're talking about the Marlins situation. Supposedly they went to a strip club in Atlanta or whatever. Probably the same one Lou Will had to get them chicken wings from. But it's funny because like of those 18 players, there's probably very few who are actually symptomatic. Not that it matters, but still, 18 players got it. That's not good. And the MLB is doing everything, and they wanted to do like the bubble situation. Remember, if they wanted to isolate players, like have their own little camp in Florida, have their own little camp in Arizona, the players fought it. No way, not doing it. Yet they still wanted a season because they still wanted to get paid. And now you have too many people that are being irresponsible and not taking it seriously. And regardless of whether or not you respect the strength of the virus, and there are some people, if the virus has affected you personally, if you have a loved one who was sick and was in the hospital, then obviously it's no fucking joke to you. But if you haven't, and you're out there and maybe you've had it and it was nothing to you and you just treat it as a joke, it is what it is. But it's not just about how you feel and how your perspective is. It's about protecting everyone else, because you don't know who may be high risk. You don't know who may have an issue and not take this thing well, or who's genuinely scared. And we're seeing like Yoenis Cespedes opted out for COVID-related reasons. It may have had something to do with his contract, the way that he wasn't going to get paid enough, he felt, so he decided it wasn't worth it. Who knows? But it's a very strange situation. Real quick, because I see some questions in there, primarily from Wig. The Yankees game for tomorrow has been postponed. Not today. The Yankees game today is fine. It's tomorrow that the Yankee game is postponed. I fell for that curveball for a second. I literally took Garrett Cole out of my article before I had to go back and put him back in because I got duped. But I did confirm that the Yankees game today, there's weather risk, which we'll go over. But the Yankees game is on today. It's tomorrow. For whatever reason, they decided to cancel. I think we're getting hit with some storms, and then maybe that's why. But anyway, like you said, man, we're holding on by a thread. With MLB, it's been good to us. I know you've had like a 7, you haven't lost, knock on wood, yet. And to be clear, Paulie he's not playing cash. Like he's winning every day consistently in tournaments. To be clear, I've had a pop already for $2,000, so it's been good to us. It's been really good to us. And we're hoping that it stays. Yeah. But these players got to get their head out of their ass and just be smart about shit. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Like full disclosure, 2 of those winning days were like $30. Like, risk 200, win 230. But still, that's like not losing.
You're not losing. It's,
And then, overall, I'm up about 2 as well.
It's been good to us. It's been good to us. No doubt about it. So hopefully it stays and we finish out the season. Because, here's the other thing. If the MLB season goes down because more and more players get it, the NFL players may not feel too comfortable. That's a sport where you're on people. You're really on people. And they ain't planning on quarantining.
That if we lose football, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Seriously. All I can do, it's not even a funny thing. All I can do is laugh. It's like, because I don't know what I would do either. But anyway, hopefully everything's here to stay. Hopefully some of the players get their heads, put on. I mean, honestly, the way I feel, the way I honestly feel is if a team is fucking like the Marlins, cancel them, kick them out. We didn't cancel culture now, right? Cancel the fucking Marlins. Get rid of them. Tell them they're disqualified. They're not playing no more. Redo the schedule. And if the Cardinals want to act that way, I mean, it's one thing if a team gets it because the other team was irresponsible. But if you do an investigation and you find out that a team was just irresponsible, then get rid of them. Don't pay them. Let them go. Their owners can suffer too for not having enough control. But these are the same players that said they didn't want to be monitored. They didn't want to be chaperoned. Like that's what the players, association said. Like, no, you can trust us. We're adults. It is what it is, man. I mean, you got to think. Some of these people are barely adults, if you even call them adults. While Paulie's connection reconnect. Oh, there he is. He's back. Back at him. Back. D Millie in the chat says, if you cancel sports, we're gonna have to start a Wise Take construction team to pay the bills. Yeah, right. No doubt. No doubt. I like the way you think, D Millie. Real quick, guys, if you haven't hit that like button already, please do. The likes really help us out, allow us to continue to do dirties on the YouTube and Twitch. So please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Monday through Friday, we rock to you with some NBA, MLB streams, all free. We just ask that you hit the like and show us some support, show us some love. With that said, Paulie, we do have some weather on one of the more riskier games is the Yankee game, which we talked about with Garrett Cole going. I'm gonna go ahead and read off some of this little weather report at this point. So for Philly, New York, models looking a little bit better than they did earlier this morning. Certainly a chance for rain, especially late. This is from Kevin Roth, a DFS meteorologist. He's actually a real DFS meteorologist, but he's lucky enough to have found a niche in the DFS community, and we appreciate him. Did an interview with him. Go check it out on the YouTube channel. But models looking better. He thinks a dry game is the more likely outcome, but there is still a chance for some late inning rain or whatever the case is. New York, Atlanta, just your typical pop-up storms. He's got it as green, yellow. In Atlanta with the humidity, storms could pop up out of nowhere, but it should be okay. Kansas City, Chicago, we have off and on showers. We also have 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left field, which is significant for Wrigley Field. He's got it as yellow-green because there is going to be on and off showers. He just doesn't think it's going to rain enough to be a big problem. A delay is possible, but he thinks they'll finish the game. And then finally in Coors, we have early rain. Storms fading away this evening, likely clear by game time, but he can't rule out a late start and play, which I don't think anyone really cares if it was late start and play. It's the in-game delays or the early or the game's not finishing that really do you dirty. So with that said, Paulie, I'm going to kick it to you to talk some pitchers, man. We got a lot of pitchers to talk about considering it's a relatively small slate because FanDuel and the DraftKings had made pricing on certain guys kind of interesting. But we'll start with the guys up top. Who you doing dirties with?
Yeah. Not bad. Well, I mean, Garrett Cole, that's, rinse and repeat kind of deal. You just keep playing this guy. I don't really care who the matchup is. I don't really care what the park is. If you're spending up, he's the guy. I don't mind DeGrom, but he's more expensive and in a tougher matchup. It's Garrett Cole. Bueller, I'm not ready to trust every day. You got me?
Yep.
Okay, my bad. So it's really just Garrett Cole. I don't mind a pivot to DeGrom. He does do the dirty every now and then, but I'm a Garrett Cole guy right now. You're muted.
Good, because what I said was probably inappropriate. I'm on the other side with the DeGrom Cole. I'm fine with Cole. I got no argument against him. I do prefer DeGrom. That's mainly because the Braves are actually like 5th in strikeouts to righties right now. They started off the season just striking out a ton. Obviously, they've been somewhat hot offensively. Philly's been on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm a little hesitant, though, to rely on those numbers because they haven't played much. They played one series, and then they haven't played since. They've had a long layover. But I do prefer DeGrom. He's actually cheaper on FanDuel than Cole. On DraftKings, he is more expensive. DeGrom is the one I'm rolling with. The Mets are pretty desperate for a win. I think they're going to and their bullpen has still been suspect, even though they thought it was improved. So I prefer DeGrom over Cole. Bueller, I'm not interested. He's looking at 75 pitches or 5 innings still. They're gonna play the baby game with him. So it's really Cole or DeGrom. I prefer DeGrom, but like I said, if you're out there and you prefer Cole, these are two of the best pitchers in baseball. I don't care who their opponents are. I will not argue either one against either one. I think they're both good. It's just a matter of preference. Again, I prefer DeGrom. I think the Mets will give him a long leash. He should be nice and stretched out. Not that Cole isn't. But I think the Mets are getting pretty desperate here after losing 5 straight, and most of those games being to Atlanta. Paulie, the mid tier and the value is interesting. It's kind of deep on this slate, right? We don't have a lot of spend ups, and so this is like the section where I think the slate is won. Whether it's picking two of these guys, mid tier value, or picking one and getting it with the right stud, Cole or DeGrom. Talk to me about the mid tier, and then we'll break it down to the value.
Yeah, so we've got, pitcher friendly weather in Chicago. So Alec Mills looked decent his first start against the Royals. I think should get, some ownership, maybe not chalk, but I think he'll be like in the 20s. Same game, Danny Duffy looked good last start. I don't particularly like picking on the Cubs, but they do strike out a bit. Not that Duffy strikes out many, but with that weather, he's worth a shot. At 6'6", you don't need a ton out of him. Carlos Rodon, in a risky spot against Milwaukee, but they really haven't looked great with the bats. And, if you can neutralize Yelich, they lost, what's his name, the leadoff hitter. He failed on the season. Like, I think Carlos Rodon is worth a look here. Not the best of parks, but positive pitching weather. And Milwaukee has had some big strikeout games already this year, so I'm into him as well. And then I'm too scared to do Paddock against Dodgers. That's really it. I guess you got to give Frankie Montas a look as well, although I think I'm going to find myself stacking against him.
I speaking of Montas, I do anticipate him to be the SP2 chalk for most people. He's on DraftKings. On FanDuel, obviously, I think he'll be somewhat popular on FanDuel too for the people that are looking to just pay down. He's cheap on both sides. He doesn't look quite the same. Remember, he didn't pitch much last year because of the suspension, the PEDs. So we're not really sure what to expect. We know Seattle strikes out a lot, but they do have a lot of lefties. I'm okay with Montas. I'm somewhere in like the 20 to 30% range, which I'm thinking may actually be somewhat underweight. There are some other mid-tier guys I'm more interested in. One of them is this Alec Mills dude. He's like 8K on DraftKings. I think he's somewhere in the 8s on FanDuel too. He's got decent strikeout stuff, but it's mainly just that park. We've got 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from left. He's got a matchup against the Royals. Roth doesn't seem too concerned about the weather, which is a plus for me. So I am looking at him in that mid-range. And like you said, Chris Paddock, I'm going to have a little Paddock, only because I don't think we'll ever really see his price that low. Maybe ever again, unless he's in cores. So maybe a little bit, but I'm with you. The Dodgers are not a team that you're going to make a living picking on. So if you want to sprinkle in some, if the price is just too good to pass up, I don't necessarily hate it. I do think Paddock has, if he doesn't yet, I think he will have elite stuff at some point in his career. But I agree. The Dodgers are literally, in the National League anyway, if not the worst team you could face or target against, one of. So I'm with you on that one. What about the value? Who are some of the guys you're looking to punt with?
There's not much. I think Eustace Sheffield is worth a look. This Oakland offense really hasn't gotten off like the way they were looking last year. I don't have their lineup just yet, and that could factor into decision. I like the park, and I like what this kid was doing preseason, although it hasn't really transferred yet regular season. But he's really the only guy I think I would really take a shot on down here.
Yeah, Sheffield is interesting. The A's have like a 40% K rate against lefties. We saw shout out to Shockey. He was all over Walker that day. Walker just destroyed them. So they just don't look good right now. They just don't look good. Sheffield worries me with his walk rates. I don't think he's as good as people keep waiting for him to kind of be good, and I'm just not sold. He looked good in camp, but apparently he was beating up on like minor leaguers, guys that either didn't make the team or barely made the team. So I'm not overly excited about him either. But I do think at his price, you can take a shot and just kind of look, the A's are cold right now. They're striking out a shit ton, especially the lefties. We can take a shot. You did mention Carlos Rodon, who I should have talked about in the mid-tier, but I'll talk about him now. I agree with you, man. The Brewers last year didn't strike out as much to lefties as they did to righties. Part of that reason is, like you said, Lorenzo Cain, who opted out of the season. Very tough guy to strike out. He's right-handed. I do think that Rodon has good strikeout stuff. He's got some other things that could be concerning, hard contact rates, all that. It's a small park. But for a 7K pitcher on DraftKings, and he's also cheap on FanDuel, I think he's worth a shot in tournaments for sure. And I think my favorite punt option, if I am going to go down, is probably Danny Duffy. The Cubs are pretty damn good against lefties. But they've also, I think they're like fifth in strikeouts against lefties as well right now. They do strike out. Again, just trying to take advantage of that wind. I'm assuming the Cubs put out a pretty good amount of righties, which means they're hitting into that wind over in left field with the lefty on the mound. So I actually do like Danny Duffy quite a bit in terms of the cheap options. And when we get into the bats, I personally am looking to get some money to be able to afford some expensive bats. Curious to hear your take, but it's certainly forcing my hand to kind of like these cheaper guys more than I normally would. With that said, real quick, shout out to Patio Joe in the chat, as always. Patio Joe also agrees with you, Paulie. He thinks Cole is the play because the Philly team has been quarantining for so long. They haven't even been practicing. So shout out to Joey with that tidbit of information, as he always provides. With that said, Paulie, take us to some stacks.
All right. So I like the Giants and Coors. This team's actually been hitting the ball awesome in Giant Stadium. And they get Chichi Gonzalez, a guy who got murdered by lefties and isn't very good to righties. Throws mid to low 90s fastballs and a variety of like sinkers, cutters, changeups, all of which get hit very hard. I'm cool with some of the Rockies. Johnny Cueto just doesn't have it anymore, especially in Coors. Some of these bats are due for a big breakout game, like Story and Arenado, and David Dahl, Daniel Murphy, McMahon have already gotten it going, and Matt Kemp's actually had a decent little start. So, like Coors bats a lot. Like I said, I like the Seattle stack. I really like this lineup they put out today. You've got power, like kind of up and down. I like Malix, even though he's batting ninth. You got Vogelbach, Austin Nola, Kyle Seager, Kyle Lewis, and Crawford at short's just been awesome, getting on base, extra base hits, stealing bases. I think that's like a nice way to get leverage against the field. I like Dodgers against Paddock, and I really like Paddock, but I think this Dodgers team is waking up, although they did just lose Betts. And then I like the Twins against Derek Holland, the fly ball pitcher who's very home run prone against best power hitting teams in baseball. Like, give me some of that. So it's those teams. That's where I'm. Oh, and I kind of like the White Sox as well against Brett Anderson. Usually keeps the ball on the ground, but this team is just loaded with right-handed power and going to be very hard for Brett Anderson to get by unscathed. So it's Coors, Chicago, Minnesota, Seattle, and the Dodgers.
Yeah, I completely agree with the Coors take. And we're a company, like we're literally a full company that's made like I don't know how many years we've avoided Coors at all costs. But this is a smaller slate. It's a really good spot for both teams. Coors has been playing out pretty well, even in slow starts. It's eventually kind of gotten going throughout. The Rockies have a terrible bullpen, so I like both sides of that. Cueto, we know, is terrible, especially the lefties. I do like both sides to that. I just think that I like. What's it called? I think I just like the Giants side a little bit more, especially their lefties. Jastrzemski's been red hot. Evan Longoria, he's a righty. He's also been red hot. And there's enough bats to pick from against Mr. Chichi over there. And again, the Rockies are the one that have one of the worst bullpens in the game. I'm good with the Rocky side as well. There were a few guys that profiled really well against Cueto. Cueto likes to throw his slider, which has been getting murked, by the way. His slider's been awful for quite some time now. He's been dealing with injuries. Maybe that's something to do with it. But it was Charlie Blackmon, I know, Trevor Story. Both sides of the plate, there's a few guys that just do dirties against sliders. So especially a bad one. So I'm good with Coors. They're the priority if you can make them work. As far as like lower owned stacks, I'm with you on the Twins, man, against Holland. You got some lefty matchers. I think Miguel Sano has like 2 homers and not that many at bats against Holland. Nelson Cruz, there's death taxes, and Nelson Cruz against a lefty. That's always in play. I'm completely with it. The White Sox are another team I may have a sprinkle of. I don't respect Brett Anderson, and the park is good for hitting, and I do like the White Sox new look. I like their new team. It gets a little tricky when you got guys like Yoman Moncada I definitely prefer against a righty, But Jose Abreu, Yasmani Grandal, these are guys that profiled extremely well. A little bit of a revenge spot for Grandal, although we don't necessarily use that in baseball. It's there. I think there was one more team that I wanted to touch on. Oh, the Yankees. I don't mind grabbing some Yankees, man. Like, the weather's a little bit concerning. They got a matchup against Arrieta, who throws a lot of sinkers. I know the Yankees, there's not very many pitches the Yankees don't hit well. Yankees are one of the hottest offenses in the game, one of the hottest teams in the game. And they're going up against Jake Arrieta, who I'm not too fond of myself. So I'm definitely in on that. We'll go into the questions, Nation. I know Joey's in there doing his thing and, answering a lot of them. So is Shockey, who's in there as Clint Petrikis. Ha ha ha. So if you have any questions, get them in. Me and Paul are going to do some Dong Watch in the meantime as we, prepare the nation for war.
War. Give me Mitch Garver.
I like that one. I'm going to take the easy one and go with Nelson Cruz. I'm going to do the cop out.
All right. Give me the stud, Mike Yastrzemski.
I like that one. I do like that one a lot. I'll go with Evan Longoria, man. He's been hot. Let's keep it rolling.
I like that. Give me that in the morning. I'll take Eloy Jimenez.
Ooh, that was funny because I was thinking about a White Sox. But like I've taken the same player from the same team as you twice, so I'm gonna find a third one to go with. Here, you know what? I'm gonna go with the polar bear. I'm gonna go with Pete Alonso against Soroka. The profile looked really good. It's a righty-righty matchup. I think Soroka's a respectable pitcher, but Pete Alonso did profile particularly well, which is pretty simple against a guy like Soroka who relies heavily on sliders. Alonso had some good numbers against the slider. So I'll go with the polar bear, Mr. Pete Alonso. All right, let's dive in here and see if we have any questions. We saw a lot of those. Tony A says Mills revenge game. Interesting to note. My brother Brian asked, good spot for the Twins. Yes, we both agree that it's a good spot for the Twins. Nick Madrigal and Andres Jimenez.
Jimenez is Met, and Madrigal's a White Sox. So I got to choose one?
I don't know. I think he's asking what our thoughts are on those two players.
Give me Jimenez. Jimenez has speed if he gets on, and the Mets are kind of high on him. Madrigal's like a defensive specialist, second base. Not very good at night. So give me Jimenez.
The holla for $1 type. That's what you tell me.
Exactly.
Joey likes Coors as well. Let's see. Garver's cheap on FanDuel. Joey makes a point. Garver's cheap on FanDuel. Garver's also going to be extremely low owned. And not that the Twins are going to be chalk anyway, but any catcher always ends up going, unless they're Gary Sanchez, and even him, always ends up going very low owned on FanDuel. Roddy Pope says favorite arms on DK. I guess we could do like a top 3, right?
All right. Rodon, Mills, and
I'll probably go with I'll go with DeGrom. I'll go with DeGrom, Mills, and Duffy. Kind of take 2 pitchers from that game. Let's see. Our boy Shockey likes Piscotty at 3,600. Yehuda Blonder, no Soroka today. Any interest in Soroka?
He's all right. You know what I mean? Like, let me take a look at Metsky's lineup one last time. It's a decent Met lineup. He's all right. I don't really like picking on the Mets bats, especially in hitting part.
Yeah, I think for me it was like just for me, I think it was looking at his price. Like if he was giving me something, if I was getting something, but we have guys that are a little more expensive than him that to me are just way better for fantasy purposes, and then we have a lot of guys who are a lot cheaper than him, who are maybe close to being as good, if not as good. So that was really why I kind of wedged out. Not that I love to pick on the Mets bats either necessarily all the time, but that was really why I kind of skipped over them.
Say you had a squad with Garrett Cole in it, and like you built the stack and you loved it, and you were over by 1,600. Would you just pivot to Soroka and call it a squad, or would you?
If I really like the rest of the team, yeah, I would be okay with it. I would, but I wouldn't be. I would have to be comfortable sacrificing ceiling. Like I'm not looking for a 35 like a DeGrom or Cole may give you on DraftKings. But I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? I think he can get me an 18, 19, 20, and I think the rest of my lineup will make up for whatever I don't get. In that circumstance, yeah, I'd be okay with it. It's like,
Right.
like I wouldn't argue off. Yes. Hit that like button, nation. That's pretty much it for the questions as far as I see. I know Joey and Clint are in there answering questions in the YouTube chat. It should be a wild slate, man. We got the COVID stuff going on. Hopefully, like I said, it keeps going and we don't have to deal with any other cancellations or anything like that related to it. We'll see. We got basically two teams that are out and doing getting dirties done to them. Clint Petraka says the Marlins are second in the division. The Mets are last. This is true. I think the Marlins have only played one series also. So it'll be fun to see what the Marlins. The Marlins is an improved team, man. It's a shame. I see Dick. They got some guys out there that could have made things interesting. So not that I think they'd be good, but for fantasy purposes, they're always low owned, and there could have been some good spots, especially if they were in hitting ballparks. So hopefully they make a return at some point, or like I said, cancel the masses for being fucking dicks, going to strip clubs in the middle of a pandemic. What's that?
Number one pitching umpire.
Number one pitching umpire in Oakland. That's huge for a guy like Sheffield, who has a walk issue. That's humongous for a guy like him. So if you're interested in doing dirties with him, that's definitely a plus. Like I said, I don't see any other questions, so I guess we'll get up out of here. The article's already up. All of our tools, the stack rankings are up. Projections, cheat sheets for baseball are up. We'll hop into the Slack a little bit and see if anybody that's subscribed has any questions or wants to talk to Slate out. But, pretty light slate. NBA sweats going on. If you don't have enough TJ Warren like myself, you're already looking forward to MLB and you're ready for luck. Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here, bro?
No, man. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. Keep this shit going, nation.
Stay hot, nation. Stay hot. For myself, for Paulie D, the entire Wise Take Nation, like he said, we'll see you tomorrow. And as always, good luck.
Peace.